Welcome to Rappin with Reverend Laura. In this brief series, we're interviewing some of our high school youth group students. And today, my guests are Maddie and Annabelle Subchalk, and they are going to talk about two different things. They are sisters, but they have their own unique interests. And thank you for being willing to do this together, too, both of you. Thank you. I grew up in a household of three girls. I have two younger sisters, and um, if we tried to do something like this together, we might have it would probably end in a like fight by the end. So no hair pulling, or so we'll be nice to each other. Okay, so thank you guys for being on this. So I'm going to talk to you both about some of your distinct interests. And I think it'll be fascinating for people to hear. So, Maddie, you're oldest, so you get to go first. Um, that you want to go into engineering.
Mhm.
You don't know the specifics yet of exactly what kind of engineering you want to do, but you have a sense that you want to go into engineering. How long have you known that?
Well, in seventh grade, through school, we were kind of not necessarily pushed, but we were focused more on career planning and just kind of figuring out how our skills and the way we learn what careers that would kind of match up with. And I think more logically versus emotionally, and I love to problem solve. So after taking a couple personality tests, I matched with a bunch of careers that had to do with science and math. And
Mm.
I was kind of thinking, well, engineering would kind of be cool. And my mom's brother, who is a mechanical engineer in the Navy, I've always looked up to him a lot. And I thought, well, maybe this is kind of the right path to go. I mean, I didn't know a ton about what he did through his job at the time, but I was kind of like, maybe this will kind of be me carrying on what he does since he doesn't have any kids. So I was like, we would kind of be able to bond through that, which is really nice, especially since we don't see him too often. So,
Aw, that's
yeah.
great. So he's kind of your inspiration.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, and your dad is obviously pretty good at math.
Yeah, yes, he is.
Because of his work, and your mom obviously science.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a neat combination of both of them.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and I always think it's cool. I grew up um, in an era where women were not encouraged in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I don't know that even if I were encouraged, that would have been my thing because I wasn't good at math and science. But I also definitely grew up as a woman with that math science phobia. That you're like, you should be afraid of math. Math is hard. And my daughter, is in STEM stuff, and she's really into encouraging women and girls to be in the sciences. And so uh that's kind of cool to see her do that. I wish I'd had more encouragement. I think I would have felt at least less like a math phobic. To this day, if I have to do math, I'm like, I panic. Uh, that's cool. So you don't know yet what kind of engineering. Is there an area that you're kind of drawn to?
Yeah, I've tried to narrow it down to just a couple types since it's such a large variety. But I think that at the moment I'm kind of torn between biomedical, chemical, and then software engineering, since
Wow.
chemical and biomedical both have that more scientific aspect to them that I like. But software engineering, I mean, technology isn't going to be going away anytime
No.
soon. So I think that that's definitely sort of a safe career path to go on.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm excited to follow you into that. That'll be kind of, I mean, follow your career, not follow you into engineering. That ship has sailed for me. So, yeah. Yeah. And Annabelle, I know that you are a student athlete and you're very serious about athletics.
I am.
You're doing softball right now. You've done basketball. You're into a lot of sports. You've also play select and club sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I know, having had one kid that did that, what a huge commitment that is. How do you balance that with like school and I was going to say social life, but in a pandemic, you don't really have that. But, you know, but when you didn't have a pandemic, how do you balance those things?
Well, it's definitely tricky at some times, depending on the workload that my teachers give me. But sometimes once I get home from practice, some of my practices end at like 9:30 and I'll still have a bunch of homework to do. So then sometimes I'll stay up to like 11 doing homework on some nights. I've gotten better on that because
Mhm,
my practices went down from 6 a week to only 4 to 5. So
mhm.
it's been easier to manage it. But some days it is trickier than others to try to time manage everything.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously it brings you joy. You love to do it because to play at the level you're playing is a huge commitment. You wouldn't do it if you weren't into it, right?
Yeah.
um, but how do uh I guess the question is, do you ever feel like there's a lot of pressure on you at that level?
Yes, I do. So since my dad played baseball and basketball, he's been my coaches sometimes, which I didn't really like that just because obviously he was harder on me than the other girls because I'm his
Right,
daughter.
right,
It is, I do feel a pressure to try and meet his standards. And sometimes I'm really hard on myself because of that. So
right.
then I'm kind of known for getting in my own head. So
Yes,
when I come up to bat, sometimes I'll just like ruin it and overthink.
right.
And then all the pressure with the high school coaches. They're not my favorite coaches, I would say. I prefer my club coaches just
Right,
because I'm not having a great experience with them so far,
right.
unfortunately. But I hope that I can build the relationship. I mean, I think a bunch of stress can be taken off a sport if you have a good relationship with the teammates and with the coaches.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know my experience as a select sports parent, and I have to full disclosure, I did not do sports. I don't know if that's obvious to you, but I did not do sports. So to be a sports mom was new to me. And my daughter didn't do sports. I was a dance mom. That's a big shift. So, um, uh, you know, there was a lot of pressure that came from the parents, even at a really young age, like before they were even in middle school doing travel stuff. That and like I found myself saying things like, "There's no like NBA scouts at this fourth grade basketball tournament." You know what I mean? But there is do you feel? And it wasn't the kids. The kids like just wanted to play and have fun, and even
Yeah.
the coaches were pretty good. Sometimes I think the parents got a little into it and really competitive about it. And do you sometimes feel like you feel that pressure, like there's like they need a little perspective on like what the reality is?
Yeah, I definitely do. So I took a break from basketball this year because of COVID, but I'm planning on going back next year.
Yeah,
But the following years, or the past years, I should say, when I'm at the line shooting or something, you can just hear all the parents yelling at you basically, and you just have to block them out. And then
yeah,
if you swing and miss when you're up to bat, you can hear all the parents yelling at you, which doesn't help. And then you even get harder on yourself,
yeah.
so then can cause you to miss another ball, and then they're going to get even more angry and stuff, which sometimes it's really hard to block them out, but
It
I'm
is
learning to block them out better. So
good. I mean, but that's a lot of pressure as a young person to have to be like not only focusing on what's going on in your head and listening to your coaches, but then to have all that pressure from outside too.
yeah.
That's a ton. I I um the kind of parent that sat on the sidelines, and when the parents would get so freaked out about a call or whatever, and I'd be like, nobody here is going to a D1 school on a scholarship. Just, like cut it out, you know?
Yeah.
Are these kids aren't going to play professional whatever. We're from small town, They
Yeah.
now your school is bigger and your programs are bigger. There's more of a chance of that, but still that's like those kids, it takes the fun out of it, I think, when there's that much pressure, don't you
Yeah,
think?
it really does.
Yeah,
I used to play soccer. I started when I was 3 and I stopped at 4th grade, and I stopped it because it wasn't fun anymore.
right.
And there was so much pressure on me as a 4th grader that I just couldn't take it anymore. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's so sad because sports used to be fun. And
yeah,
you could do sports and other things. You know what I mean? You
yeah,
could do sports and be in the play, and you could do sports and be into whatever other things you were into, other hobbies and interests. And now it just seems like it has to be such a narrow focus, and the other pressure about like, oh, you haven't been playing this since you were 3. I don't think you'll be able to, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
and
oh,
then,
you want a spot on the high school team? Oh, you had to have started playing this back when, before you were born. You're,
yeah, and some are like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a very bad experience with the club team that I joined, U12 club. It was the first team that I ever joined for club, and I came from rec, and they didn't pay any attention to me just because I was basically worse than all the other
Yeah.
girls.
Yeah.
So they only paid attention to the really good girls, which just left me and a couple other girls to fend for ourselves.
Right.
And
Right.
luckily, that club, they're not around anymore because of how bad their coaching staff was.
Mm,
And my friend and I, we came from that club and we joined a much better club who got
right.
us the help that we needed and worked with us.
That's great. Yeah, because if you're only focusing on your best athletes, especially at that level, those other kids who might be great athletes might be
Mhm.
even better, never get the coaching or the opportunities because you're so focused on who's good right now, you know? Yeah, and who you know and who's in the system and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Maddie, I want to shift back to you because I know that women going into engineering is not uncommon anymore, which is great. But I know that engineering can be a highly competitive STEM stuff can be a highly competitive field. Um, are you wired to be like, that's cool, I want to compete, or are you wired like, you know?
Um, I I like being competitive. So
Hmm.
I think that despite STEM being a very competitive and male dominated field,
Hmm.
I think that I'm ready to take that challenge. And I think that I'm just going to push myself to do the best that I can because I'm sure that along the way, some people are going to think, oh, she's not that smart. She won't be able to do this or she won't be able to solve that. And it'll just make it that much better when I actually do prove them wrong.
I love it. There's a little bit of revenge fantasy in that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's something that I am really passionate about, and I know that I can at least be a decent engineer just
Mhm,
based off of the motivation that I have right now. So
mhm.
yeah, I'm really excited about it. I
That's
mean,
cool.
it's gonna be scary. I mean, because college does sound scary, especially right now. But yeah, I think it'll
Mhm.
be a great challenge, and I think it'll be a great career that I can work in. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love your enthusiasm and I love your confidence. I think that goes a huge way. Annabelle, you were mentioning, and this is kind of a question for both of you. You mentioned how you tend to get in your own head. I mean, we all do that. We all do that in whatever. I mean, I don't care what, everybody does it. And so, um, it, I'm wondering, what do you do when, Annabelle, how do you, um, like self-talk or coach yourself so you can, when you find yourself like, standing there going, I don't think I can make this free throw, you know? Yeah.
Usually I just take a couple breaths and I just focus on myself and I kind of become one with my heart rate or my blood pressure.
Oh.
And I've gotten, I guess, used to knowing myself from after my surgery because that was a really tough time for
Oh
me.
yeah, yeah,
I've gotten to know my body way more.
yeah.
I know how to calm myself down now, and I know how to center myself to where I only focus on myself. So
Right.
that
You can
really
kind of
helps. It's really
that's
decreased
that's
my
cool.
pains sometimes. So.
Yeah. Will you teach me how to do that sometime?
Yeah.
Because um I played before I broke my thumb, I played on the church softball team. I'm terrible and not an athlete at all, and now I'm an old lady. So, but I've never I've never played, and we have a kind of combined team with a couple of churches, and with Trinity UCC too, and they have a young woman on the team that's like amazing and like a super great soft. I mean, this is slow pitch, so I wouldn't even know where to begin. Um, but I kept just striking out and striking out, and I was like, I should be off the team. I'm like terrible, but they needed the women because you had to have equal number of men and women. And so, um, I we'd do batting practice and I would just be like an idiot, I mean, just like a cartoon, like spin around, after you swing at the ball. And this young woman said, "Can I give you a tip?" I'm like, "Please," because nobody really coaches. There's like a coach, but he's not coaching. He's just like the roster and who goes where and who's gonna coach the baselines and stuff like that. And she was like, "I know this sounds weird, but watch the ball all the way to the bat."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay." And then I could hit the ball. It was amazing. So I want you to know I had two hits
That's
in the
good.
season.
Yeah.
Two. And I had a couple other times where I hit the ball, but I couldn't run fast enough to first base because I didn't hit it like way out over people's. But I was like, I made contact with the ball and I didn't make a fool of myself. But so I love that, like, those tips, not just about how to do it well, but like how to get out of your own head, how to calm yourself, all those kinds of things are so helpful. That's great. You're gonna have to lead meditation for us one night. Your self-calming tips. Maddie, how about for you? Do you ever get in your own head?
Yes, I overthink a lot, especially when it comes to tests, because despite having some confidence when it comes to engineering, all of that confidence just disappears when it comes to my grades. And I I don't consider myself a perfectionist in any way, but I'm kind of that student where if I get a B, I'm like, oh, this kind of sucks because I just know that it wasn't my best attempt at the
Right,
quiz or at the test. But I think that um like sort of not accepting failure, like not getting used to failure,
right,
but kind of just being like, it's just a B, like just kind of
right,
thinking,
right,
getting into getting into that mindset where it's like, I made a little mistake. It doesn't define me. And I think that having that kind of mindset has definitely helped me because before this, my grades just stressed me out so much because I
yeah,
just wanted to do well. I wanted to say I got this grade and I wanted to be proud of getting that grade. Um, but I think especially this year with the pandemic and just being in quarantine, I haven't performed necessarily as well as my past years, but I was also taking harder classes. And I
yeah,
think that that really helped me kind of understand that some days are just not going to be your best days. And I think
Right.
that kind of applies to sports because I am nowhere near as athletic as she is.
Right. Right.
But I mean, yeah, and it's not good because you know that you can do better and that you've
Yeah.
done better in the past, but just kind of thinking, you know, this will be my freebie day. This is the day that just
Right.
won't count in my book. And the next day I'll just like step up to the plate or go to take that test and just kind of think, you know, whatever happens, happens. Like I've
Mhm.
set myself up for this. And if it doesn't go the way that I want, that's okay. Next time I'll
Mhm.
do better. And I think that it's a lot, I mean, it's easier said than done
Mhm.
because I mean, it's taken me a long time to realize it, but just kind of understanding that I think it definitely helps a lot, especially for me.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And again, if you could teach me how to do it, that would be super helpful. Um, it's hard to I think it's hard to um give ourselves a break and also to say something is good enough.
Mhm.
And I think I'm going to do a when I was in high school story. But when I was in high school, if they had AP classes, I didn't know about them, you know? and, and I probably wouldn't have. I was a pretty solid B student, but uh it wasn't like there wasn't like you're on the college prep track or you're on the remedial track. And there wasn't this like you're in the tech vocational track or you're in the college track or you're I think there's so much uh pressure in high school to like take this really rigorous course of study and to really achieve at it. And like if you achieve at it and you do all these AP things and you score well on the AP test, you can, start college with like, your first semester done of credits, and the same thing with athletics that like, if you compete at this level, there's a chance you could get scouted to play somewhere and that may or may not have a scholarship, but you could play at the collegiate level. And all those things are true and good, but I think that's also a ton of pressure to put on young people because then why can't college be college? Like why do we have to do college in high school now? And what about the joy of playing? And if I go somewhere that gives me a scholarship to play, great. Or I could play, at a D3 school and have the time of my life, or I could do intramurals or club sports, at the university level, and I still get, it makes it, I feel like they make you feel like it's got to be this. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I agree. And even with like right now, I mean, like I said, we started in about seventh grade trying to figure out our career path.
Yeah.
And I think that, I mean, when you're like 13, maybe, how do you know what you're going to do? I mean, I think that I was kind of lucky that I was able to find something that I'm interested in, but the kids who haven't figured out what
Mhm.
college they want to go to or their career path, they shouldn't feel like they're behind of everyone else just because they haven't discovered what they want to do yet. And I think it's really hard because there are so many careers out there. And
Mhm.
even if you take a test and your results are, oh, this career may be a good fit for you, that doesn't necessarily mean that
Mhm.
it will make you happy and that you'll want to go to that job every
Right.
day. Um, but I think that just, I mean, at our school, we're lucky that we have a lot of opportunities
Mhm.
with other classes that have
Yeah.
to do with other careers, so that's definitely helpful. But yeah, I do kind of feel bad for the kids who aren't taking a bunch of AP classes because they don't learn that well in a more of a high pressure environment.
Mhm.
But I don't think that they should feel penalized because
Right. Right.
I mean, I
Mhm.
think that high school seems so much more competitive right now. Even
Absolutely.
um, like Annabelle is taking a couple honors classes next year, and she didn't take any this year. And that should be totally fine. Like that she
Mhm.
only wants to, now that she's taking them sophomore year, she has a little bit of that challenge. But then there's kids in my grade who are taking like 8 AP classes next,
Right,
and that shouldn't be like, you shouldn't
right, right.
sacrifice your mental and emotional health because of that.
Yeah.
Think that that's kind of a big issue, that so many students are just pressured by like not necessarily teachers but even their peers. They just
Mhm.
feel that they have to compete, which,
Mhm.
like you kind of said, was sports, it kind of takes the fun out of it. Like
Yeah.
a good friendly competition is always fun, but when there's that kind of pressure on you, you're just kind of like, well, I don't really want to do this anymore. It doesn't
Yeah.
make me happy. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Annabelle, you want to add anything?
I think Maddie said it all, but think that there's definitely some academic pressure on kids
Yeah.
nowadays. And I was fortunate enough, like Maddie, to know what I wanted to do as a career since like sixth grade. Because
What do you want to do?
I want to become a physical therapist.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we're both going in different directions.
Yeah. I
But
didn't realize you knew already. That's also that's a science trajectory, and that's also very competitive.
it is, yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to work really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, our mom makes us research about our jobs that we want to do. And
Yeah.
we did sit down and have that talk a couple weeks ago
Right.
about what I need to do to get into
Right.
college. As
Right.
a freshman in high school right now, I mean, that's a lot of pressure on
It
me because I'm
is.
trying to live in the moment. And
Right.
I'm a firm believer of somebody who wants to not think about the past or the future and just enjoy the present, because then it's going to turn into the past and then
Right.
what focus on then. So I
Right.
definitely think that there's some pressure, unneeded pressure
Right.
that goes into school and sports right now that
Right.
shouldn't be there.
Yeah. And speaking as a parent, I think that it isn't, I think parents feel pressure too because everybody, all the other parents are, having their kids do these things. And then you feel like, oh, my kid should be taking AP classes, or, oh, they didn't pick out, oh, I didn't know that they needed this to do this. And so you really start to figure out, then you kind of pass that on to your kids. Even though that was not my experience, that level of pressure. um I always think the thing I would do to give myself perspective when I was worried about my kids not being able to succeed was be like, you were a pretty average student and you went to a good university and you have all but your doctoral dissertation. You have a master's degree and you did your doctoral research. You know what? They're going to be okay. So, I think that Annabelle, you said something really important. And I think that maybe something that this year of the pandemic has taught us and that I want to take out of that is to live in the moment
Mhm.
because I think about all the things I wish I'd done pre-pandemic when I had the opportunity to do them, or the things that I took for granted, to like eat at a restaurant and it was like it's like, whatever, where do you want to eat? I don't know, I'm so done. And then now you're like, I can't wait till I can eat in a restaurant. So um I think we having that balance of perspective where you're still achieving, you're still working hard, you still have goals, you're still working towards those, but you also are in the moment and enjoying the moment and treasuring it because old lady comment goes really quick and then you're going to be like, what, when did this all happen? I know your parents tell you that too. So I have one last question for you before we wrap it up. What is one thing you are most looking forward to doing? It can be about school, can be about friends, can be about family, can be just about life in general when the, restrictions are off and you can resume life as normal. What's something you're looking forward to?
I can go first. Okay. So my friends and I were a very active group. I mean, all of us are either in sports or mostly basketball. That's how I met most of all my
Yeah.
friends. And we go sledding, we go tubing, we go to the park to play basketball, we play volleyball together. And I haven't been able to do that with them recently. So
Yeah.
I am very looking forward to bonding with them again
Yeah.
and also getting to know new people that came to my school.
Yeah. So getting to be outside and just literally play with your friends.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yay. That's great. Maddie, did you think of one?
Yeah, I think mine is kind of similar to Annabelle's, but just being able to go outside and just do activities because I think during COVID, I was just kind of thinking if there wasn't a pandemic, what would I be doing? And most of the time, it was probably like maybe I'd be hanging out with my friends or family. But I kind of realized that when COVID wasn't a thing, I wasn't really taking advantage of everything that's outside around me. And it could be just as simple as going to a park or just, I mean, for me, I was thinking about running in a park or something like that.
Yeah.
Still can do that right now, but I think that it'll just be nice to kind of take advantage of everything that's around me without really having to worry as much about COVID. I mean, of course, it's going to be a gradual kind of thing where we're still going to have to wear masks for a while and we
Right.
can't just gather in groups of hundreds of people, but it'll be nice to kind of, I guess, get back to a little bit of normalcy.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to like be in person with people like you guys because I
Mhm.
miss you and I like glad we get to do our Zoom thing and sometimes I drop stuff off at your house and stuff. But to be able to, I'm a hugger and I
Yeah.
just want to hug everybody. So I miss that and I have to stop myself. I'm like, "Oh yeah, you can't do that." So I can't wait to be together though. And hopefully this spring we'll have some time to hang out. So thank you guys so
Great.
much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And I know the church will be thrilled to get to know you better too.
Yeah, this was awesome. This was a great experience. Thank you for
Oh, I'm
inviting.
glad you liked it.